Texas!
He's a 10.
I choose this family.
Hi guys, welcome to episode 83 of 911LoneStar RoundUp. I'm one of your hosts, Katie, and with me are my lovely co-hosts, Grace.
Hi everyone.
And EJ.
Hello.
Today we will be talking about season 4, episode 2 of Lone Star, titled The New Hot Mess. It was everything.
There's some good moments in it.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about, so let's just get to it. So we started out with like a pretty cool call, I thought so. It was like a woman in an RV and stuff, which I knew that it was like this call was coming just from like promos and like descriptions and that kind of stuff. But I was also like, I don't know, there was a lot of stuff that happened this episode that I knew of prior, but like just watching it, I wasn't really like, oh, this is this. Like I wasn't connecting things, which I kind of liked because it made it way more like surprising for me. But yeah, so she's in like this RV, but like it's like shaking. So at first you're like, wait, earthquake?
Right.
That was my first reaction and stuff. But like then we find out that like she like kept saying that like somebody's stealing her house, and like Grace took the call and she's just like, oh, so you're in her house. But then like
robbing you.
She's like moving. She's like, no, they're stealing my house. You don't understand. So like so like her ex-husband, like while this lady was sleeping, like hitched her RV to his truck and stole it while she was all asleep. And so she's in the RV that is being basically hijacked. And I loved like, I don't know, I just love this call because we had like, you know, like Paul, Mateo, obviously Owen, Judd, all in the truck, and like I just remember one moment where like you just see like a motorcycle cop, which was obviously O'Brien, riding next to him. Paul was like, they heard him over the radio, and Paul was just like, wait, is that O'Brien? And I'm sitting here watching this and I'm like, how many motorcycle cops do you know?
I know, right?
Like
literally. It's interesting because I did kind of like the moment. It's funny, the moment she looked out the window, I knew it was the house like being robbed. Like for some reason, I knew somehow someone was, and this was before I even realized that this was like a compact, like movable home. No, I thought like major house was somehow being moved. And I'm like, this does not make sense. And then I realized I called it like the more ridiculous version of it. I'm like, okay, that technically counts.
Yeah, it's funny to think about. And so like they had to think of a way to like, you know, be able to rescue the wife without like killing her. So like you know, they think of a new plan. So TK and Marjan are in the helicopter, which I was like, okay, yes.
Yes, I love TK and Marjan working together.
I know. This
we don't get it much.
Yeah, this made me want like more TK Marjan scenes. It was just so good. And it's like TK was like saying to Marjan, like, I bet you've never been lowered down to a moving house before. And she says, how much you got? TK's like, really? And she like tells him to Google some flood rescues, and TK's like, Florida, right? I love that. And like, yeah, so like she gets lowered down and she's like, yeah, well, if I miss, it's gonna really hurt more than water and stuff. So like she has to go down to like the skylight and like break in basically, and like she's trying to like get the woman to like come with her basically, and she doesn't want to leave. She's like, I don't want to leave my house and stuff. And Marjan's like, woman, this lady is crazy, right? Because this crazy lady,
wasn't it that she got the house in the divorce or something like that?
Yeah.
So she's like, I got to keep this in the divorce.
Yeah, I know, which was funny because he's like, well, the husband was like, oh, well, that's a lie, that's not actually true. But yeah, Marshall eventually does convince her to like, you know, leave and stuff, and it's like, let's just leave and stuff. And like they had a plan to like block the guy off, but of course, like when I'm watching this and the guy just says like, oh, I don't care if I run you over, like, and stuff, and he gets to like the overpass, and I'm thinking, do you really think you're gonna make it?
Did you forget about overpasses having like a height limit?
Yeah, like, do you really think, like, I'm sitting here, like, do you really think you have clearance? Because you don't. You have this big ass RV.
Right?
As the person here who doesn't drive, I wasn't really thinking about that. I was like, okay, I don't know how we're gonna sort this one out. Like I knew obviously it'd be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like clearly they had a plan, but I didn't. Again, I don't drive, so I wasn't thinking clearance.
Right.
I'm just like, but of course I'm also looking at that little space, like the space between the signs, and just my brain went, couldn't you have just fit through that?
Oh no, yeah, there was
No,
definitely
he
not
wouldn't
enough
have,
room.
but
Right.
he wouldn't have. But my brain just went, well, there was that, and I'm like, no, there's not.
Yeah, there was. Yep, definitely not.
It's funny because you can like sometimes under overpasses you can see like the scraping marks of like different trucks that have like scraped past.
Oh yeah,
I actually
there's
saw that
definitely
happen not
people.
long ago.
Oh yeah, there's so many people that just push it and are like, I'll make it, and then it's like,
Yeah.
ooh, no.
Yeah.
So then we get Owen meeting with the FBI agents. This scene was just like, I don't know, it made me feel a little bit icky for different reasons, but so they're like asking him like what he knows about the honor dogs, like that you've been associating in. And then like I just feel like the reason why it makes me feel a little bit icky, and even people that don't even like love Owen said this, which was interesting, but people are like, it's just kind of icky just because they're using like his traumas, like 9/11, that kind of stuff, to like get him to basically take the honor dogs down. And that just, I don't know, the things they were saying to him, I was like, okay, that's not sitting right with me. And
yeah, I honestly skipped through a lot of that, but I did catch that they were bringing that up, and that's half of why I skipped through it. I was like, I'm not gonna deal with that shit. No, thank you. I'm good.
But they basically wanted him to plant this bug in like one of the back like rooms in this bar, and stuff. And I don't know, this storyline's interesting and stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit back and watch this happen and kind of hold reserve my opinions till later because I like we're so early into it that I
know we are, and there's probably gonna be so much more of this. Like I'm not even
Right.
sure like at what point we can expect this arc to like close, but I'm like not really super interested, but I'm just like, waiting to see what happens and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm
instantly curious.
I'm curious. I have a few thoughts on a few things, especially after seeing some things happen in the episode. I'm like, maybe, I don't know. But I'm like, I don't feel like we have enough information to really judge it.
Yeah, exactly. So then we see Tommy visit Grace at work. Little advice. I love this. I
love their sessions.
Yeah, I love when they like get to talk. They're like, I don't know, I have lots of duo faves in like Lone Star, and like this is obviously one of them. But like, so like Tommy is like, she's getting advice about Trevor and like potentially dating her pastor.
Mm-hmm.
And I love just like certain things she said. Like Tommy was like, worried about the chickens at the church, and I loved when Grace told her to let them cluck.
I love that
line.
It was so good, and it's just like, I don't know, I'm really here for that. Like I was excited like in the promos when they showed like that, just because I don't know, like it's not the brother-in-law, first of all.
Right.
So
that
I'm
is
like,
very
I don't
nice.
know. I'm interested to see what happens, but like, I don't know. Tommy's like, it might be a deal breaker, but I'm like, oh, come on. And I don't know. There's obviously more from that, but yeah.
Yeah, like right now I'm not especially invested. But like I'm mildly curious.
I know, I'm interested.
Yeah, like I could be swayed to be more into it once we get past like the awkward period of things, which might last for a while.
Yeah, I'm okay with that though. Like It's giving good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, for me, it's cool to see the two of them working together again, just because it's been a while. But
Right.
I don't.
Right. Yeah.
Again, we'll see where it goes, because so many thoughts and so many different ways it could go. So.
Right.
Yeah.
So then we get the Tarlos scene, which the scene is so freaking good. Like I just like wrote it and coming on the next day, like, I told you guys are gonna be fed. And I'm like, yeah, you weren't wrong. But so this is before Iris came over. So like TK is all worried about like what he's wearing, and like he's all nervous. And he's like, I feel like I'm meeting your parents. And Carlos jokes about like, not my parents, just my wife. And it was the way he said it. It was hilarious. And they released this
Just
before the episode 2. And I was like, oh my God. And it was so funny. But like there's a few people that literally you could tell don't have a sense of humor. And they were like so sore fans about it. They were just like a couple people were like, oh my God, Carlos is being such an asshole. And I'm like, are you kidding me? That was so funny.
He's making
hilarious.
light of a very awkward situation, actually.
Yes,
and it is rather funny.
I look at it.
I know, it's like super weird and awkward, but like they have to like, I guess, embrace this and like be like, okay, this is our life. We have to get through this. And like it's funny. It's okay to laugh. But yeah. And then Carlos like warns TK that like Iris's meds like tend to remove the filter, so she can be blunt but like not malicious. So Carlos like tells TK like, don't take it personally, like, you know, you'll be okay, and like and stuff. And so then Iris arrives, and it's quite interesting. She says how like this place is nicer than like her last place, and TK's like, where was that? And she has an overpass, and I'm thinking, TK, bestie,
to be fair, it had been a couple of years.
True.
He could be referring to anything.
Okay, also, you know what I thought? I thought she was gonna be like, when she said that, I was thinking she was gonna say like where Carlos last lived, like they lived together there.
Oh my God.
Part of me thought that, because I was like, I don't know what she's gonna say. But like, yeah, it was, and like TK's like, oh right, yeah, I would do the same thing though, like same TK. And then Iris is asking him like, you know, so you want to get married? And like TK's like, yeah, that's the plan. And like she questions like why. She's like, well, why? And she's like, questions it because she's like, it seems like you already are. And TK is just like, yeah, but we want to make it official. And she's like, for tax purposes.
Yeah, she's so like blunt and like to the point. For sure.
It was kind of, I don't know, it was a whole thing, but like it was, I don't know, it was funny. And then she starts asking like, oh, you used to be a firefighter, but now you're a paramedic. Don't they make less? And TK's just like, oh, I do pretty okay for myself. Like I do pretty good. And then like Iris is like, is it because you're short? He's just like, I don't think I'm short.
I looked at my roommate when we were watching this and I was like, he's not short, he's like 5'11".
No, yeah, well,
and everyone around me is tall because I'm only 5'3".
Oh yeah, he's like, people are like, oh my God, TK's over 6 foot. I'm like, he is not. Like Roden and Rafa are both like under 6 foot, and the reason why I like, that's been said, but also I just know that just because I'm 5'6", and I know they look like not that much taller than I am. So
right.
Yeah, I'm also 5'6".
And I can also just like tell that just because I know a lot of people are that height, and you can kind of tell.
And also, let's just remember that for a lot of people, short is under 6 foot.
That's true.
So, height is very subjective on whether it's short or tall.
Well, for guys, I know like even guys that are like 5'9", 5'10", people are like, oh, that's short. And I'm like,
yeah,
whatever. But and then so she's like, oh, like because being a paramedic is less dangerous, and TK is like, no.
Not at the 126.
Yeah, not at the
died.
126. Amen. And TK is like, no. And they were like, saying like how like TK talked about how being a medic was his calling, and Carlos like had explained how like the medic that TK replaced died on the job, and Iris is just like, oh, that's so sad. And he and then TK was like, he was hit by a lava bomb, and Iris is just like, that's cool, but still really sad.
Yeah,
I thought that was
Yeah, exactly. Rest in
that
peace,
was
Tim.
honestly kind of funny.
Oh my
Because
god.
I'm just like, I mean,
half of
kind of
these
cool, but like also sad.
Right.
This like whole conversation was so funny. Like I can't even.
Yeah.
And then TK says like, oh, and then like how like last year during the snowstorm he got really bad hypothermia when he rescued that kid under the ice and he was in a coma. And then this is when Iris was like, I thought you were shot, and TK was like, that was the other coma. And
how many comas have you been in?
Yeah, how many comas have you been in? And he's like
only three.
Only three, but only two since we moved to Texas. And this is where I'm like, okay, tell me about the first coma. What's the first one? What's the first coma? What happened? I need to know.
We need to know this.
I know, that's what everyone was saying. Everyone's like, okay, but like, what was the first coma? I need to know. I'm like, yeah, you can't like drop that and not like spill the details, because now I'm gonna be fixated on like what the first coma was for this whole damn season until they tell us, which I don't know. Please, I just want to know. Now there's gonna be so many fan fictions about what the first coma was.
Right.
I just thought of that right now. So then she's like, that's a lot of comas, and TK says like how, yeah, it's a bit much, and like Carlos is just like, yeah, like Iris, TK and I we want to get married because we love each other and we want to spend the rest of our lives together. It's no more complicated than that. So she says how it is complicated because you're already married. And Carlos is just like, yeah, well, that's why you're here.
Right.
Remember? Remember that? Okay. And then TK like gets the divorce papers. Like it's just funny because there's like the short pause and they're all looking at TK, and TK's like, oh right, get the divorce papers.
Yeah. He's so excited to go do it too.
He's like, yes.
He's like, yes, this is almost over.
Yeah, and then so TK tries to give her a pen, and she's like, I have pens. And then she gets up, and this is when TK starts freaking out, and he's like, oh, you're not gonna sign them. Like, you're not gonna sign it right now. And Iris just says how she has to read it and think it over. And TK's just like, think what over? And then they had like pastries and snacks and stuff, and she's just like, can I take these? It doesn't look like you're gonna be eating any carbs. And so like, yeah, Carlos is like, yeah, you can take them. And TK's just like, do you want a bag? And she literally just throws them in her purse.
Oh my God.
I was literally dying of that.
Like, what?
That was a literal mood. And then she's just like, bye. And she pops out of there. She really just made her run for it. And TK's just like, what the fuck just happened?
Right.
And Carlos is just like, Iris happened. Oh my God.
I'm
that
like,
was
okay,
comedy.
I'm requesting like flashback to like younger Iris to see just what she was like.
I know, like I want to think like partially this is like half of who she's always been, and then the other part is just like because of the illness. But like, I don't know. Okay, like the divorce, her not signing them, I wasn't surprised. I knew that was gonna happen, but also I was like, I wasn't mad, but I was also like, you gotta be kidding me. But like, I also know it was gonna be dragged out. Like I've been saying that.
Well, and I think obviously this isn't something that's going to get resolved, and you know, her thinking about it. And I feel like as Carlos's friend, she's like trying to egg TK on just because she wants to make sure like he's doing this for the right reasons, both TK and Carlos. And so I feel like there's a little bit of that, like in that conversation too. Like she was purposely being a little forward and like just to kind of see what they'd respond to or whatnot. I don't know. Yeah, I knew she wasn't going to sign him then.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm, we'll talk later about what ended up happening in the end of the episode. But
yeah, I had mixed feelings. Like, obviously knew it wasn't going to be easy. Like, it wasn't going to be as easy as her just signing the papers.
Right.
I think it may just be, and I'll acknowledge this, that I would not get on well with someone like Iris, just personality-wise. Because blunt doesn't always mean you have to be rude, and she was edging on rude.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I mean,
and like, well, meds can do it.
Right.
I acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Just most of the time, I just wanted to give her a little whack upside the head and be like, calm down.
Right.
You have not seen this man in years.
Yeah.
It's not your place to be his like gatekeeper.
Right.
Not to mention he's very gay.
He's very, I'm just like, yeah, exactly. Like there were a few things that just rubbed me wrong.
Yeah, I understand that. Like, I know people that were very blunt, but like them, like I didn't find her rude just because I think her heart's in the right place, and I want to give her that benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand it both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, just mixed feelings on her overall right now, but we'll dive
that's
more
understandable.
into other things
Mm-hmm.
Right.
when they go on. And again, just I would not get on well with Iris.
Right. Yeah. Of course.
I don't feel like I would either.
Yeah.
Most of the time, I'd want to punch her, and that would not be like.
Yeah. See, I feel the same way. Like about that. Yeah. Like it would drive me nuts.
Yeah.
Like it would. Like yeah. So then TK goes to work the next day, and he's telling Nancy about this whole situation, and
I loved their friendship in this.
I love it. I do.
Mm-hmm.
And TK's like telling her that like, what is there to think about? And Nancy says like it's not like she can force Carlos to stay married to her. And TK says, well, she could drag it out and we could lose the venue. And Nancy says how like, you still could get married and then you could like, legally do all this stuff later. And I loved what TK said after that.
Oh my
because I
God,
think
me too.
It was so good. TK was saying like, he says, I'm not going to do that. We have fought so hard to have our marriages legally recognized. When I say I do, I want the world to know what I did.
Yes.
And I was
snap
like,
for that.
That was so good.
Snap for that.
And like I feel this like, yes, that's why this is like,
it's super important.
Yeah, it is important, which is what I was gonna say. Like that's why it's important. Like I don't, as obvious it's Tarlos. Obviously, we've waited like these past 4 seasons for something like this to happen, and just I know a lot of people like were upset, myself included, when this was brought up originally, because it's like, oh man, we waited 4 years and now he has a wife, even though there was obviously, we all know there was nothing romantic there at all, obviously not, but it's still like, damn, now we had this, and like just I liked that. And then it's just so sassy in this, like this whole like conversation. I loved it so much. Like, yes, TK.
Right.
And then otherwise, same place. Nancy and TK were like talking, and then Trevor shows up, and Nancy's like to Tommy like frog pins at 10 o'clock, and Tommy is like oh shit, like oh man, I want to talk to him. Like she's been blowing him off, like she hasn't been answering him because he wants to go on a date with her, but after she found out he's her pastor, she's like, oh no,
right,
and stuff. And so like Tommy, he sees her, so now Tommy has to go talk to him. And I just love TK and Nancy were in the ambulance eavesdropping like children.
Right.
And
I know,
like,
that was hilarious.
Right?
It was so funny. I loved it. Like there were just so many comedic elements in this episode that were so good and so relatable, because we all know that we would do that. Like, it's like, yeah, like I love it. And like I just love when like Tommy like agrees to go on a date and TK's just like yes, and Nancy's just like yeah. And like so like yeah, like Tommy just didn't want to go on a date because it'd be like too complicated, but she agrees to because she's just like, I don't know, she kind of feels like she has to. And I don't know, it's interesting. It is. But I love that the TK Nancy talk and like this element of them. It's like mom's going on a date kind of.
It really is.
It really is, honestly. Like that is what it is. And stuff. Then we get to more of the Owen stuff. So he does go to like the bar where the underdogs, that place. And so he has to plant this bug and stuff. And who does he run into? O'Brien.
Of course
and
he
I'm
does.
like, of course he does.
Yeah.
Exactly. And not really sure what to make of O'Brien and his dealing in there and what he's doing there. I knew this was going to come up because there was a picture of him and Owen that I had saw, I think, last week. But I didn't know exactly where it was, but I knew they were going to end up somewhere together. But I'm very confused of what O'Brien has to do with this. Like, everyone's first instinct is to be like, oh, he's definitely involved. But like, I kind of feel like he's doing his own investigation, but I'm also very confused just with things that have happened.
Right.
I don't know what to make of any of this.
It's not uncommon for police departments to partner with FBI, so I would not be surprised if O'Brien is also like not per se undercover because everybody knows he's a cop, but like
Right.
Being an active role, actively visiting there and making himself known and kind of getting to know some of the people and just seeing what he can find out. And then when he saw Owen, I think it was like, okay, what's he doing here?
I know
like,
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, Owen's not undercover either, which kind of comes up in the next scene, because Owen then talks to the agent that, is like working this case and saying how he ran into O'Brien and how he's hanging around these guys, but Owen doesn't even know what to make of it.
Right.
And like, so he plants the bug, but she's like, did you turn it on? And he's like, I had to turn it on.
No one told him.
Owen, like, I'm like, Owen is kind of not like I don't think he's on purpose dumb, but Owen can be dumb sometimes.
Yeah, he just that was just like, oh my god, Owen, bruh, you had one job.
I know, you had one job and you failed. And then like so and like Owen's not sure because like when he plants the bug he runs into O'Brien, so he doesn't know if O'Brien saw him plant the bug or like what. And so she's like, well, you have to go back there and you have to go turn it on, but like Owen can't go back there because O'Brien had told him to like stay away from here or whatever.
Yeah, that you weren't
and
not
so
welcome.
she's like, okay, well, we'll get his schedule, figure out like when he's working and he can't be there, so then you can go back and turn it on. But I'm just like, oh my god.
Send someone else in briefly to do it.
Yeah.
Like, geesh.
And she had like, Owen's acting like he's undercover, but like he's himself when he's there. They all know he's a firefighter. They all know like not all about him, but I'm sure they know a decent bit. Like the 126 has gotten a bit of publicity over the years.
Exactly. Yeah, there's no mistaking who he is.
How are you gonna, like, just the one that comes to mind is like the most obvious one is, how are you going to miss a firefighter whose house was almost demolished and was rebuilt? They got a huge donation from a GoFundMe.
Right.
That's the obvious one. Obviously there's probably other ones that you could probably tell, but that's just one of the most obvious ones. So there's definitely no hiding for him.
Yep, exactly.
So then we get Tommy asking for Owen's advice without Owen realizing what she's asking, which is so funny because I feel like this happens so often.
Oh that was so funny.
Like, Owen just like thinks that they're talking about him, but like they're not. She's not. It's sort of funny. So she's like asking about like you know, like advice about like dating Trevor and stuff, and saying like, you know, like I've had like dreams and stuff. And then like Owen's just like thinks she's talking about the honor dogs and being like, did they show up here? Did they threaten you? And she's like, why would Trevor threaten me?
Yeah.
Why would my
Like,
pastor threaten me?
right.
And it's a little bit funny because it's like they're talking about two different things, and like then he's like, oh well, yeah, you got to say no to that date. And she's like, well, I already said yes. And he's like, well, bring back up. And I'm like, I don't, this what she did was not what I pictured in my head after this scene happened at all, which I'll share when we get to that part of what I considered is backup. Because I had a few different scenarios floating around in my brain. I'm not gonna
So did
lie.
I did too. I was like,
Yeah, that'll be interesting because it's kind of funny. So then TK went to see Iris to talk to her, which I loved the scene. I think it was
Me
so
too.
good. Like, I don't know, it was just so good. And this honestly opened up a lot of things just for me and like kind of my feelings and how I was thinking. But he like asked her if he can talk to her, and she says, only if you can keep up. And I was like, okay. And so he like asks her if she's looked at the divorce papers, and she's like, oh yeah, I did, but she thinks it's a mistake. And Tika's just like says like how he knows like life has been hard for her, but she's handling it very bravely, and this is not a mistake. We're definitely not a mistake. The man is literally my heart. That was so sweet.
Oh, I love that line.
There were so many lines TK had where I was just like melting.
TK, go fight for your man. Amen.
I know it. Oh my god. And he did.
Like, yes.
So then she like, and it's funny because after he said that, she's like, well, obviously you mean figuratively, because that wouldn't work literally unless you needed a heart transplant. She had me being like, oh my god.
That girl.
I know it. And then she's like, she thinks it would be a mistake for her to sign the divorce papers, and TK's freaking out. Like, he was already freaking out after she left the loft, and so he's really freaking out. And so he's like, he tells Iris that Carlos loves her and cares for her, but he can't stay married to her. And TK says how, first of all, he's gay and he's mine. And I was like, ooh,
yes!
what a possessive.
I love it.
Very forward, but like not in a bad way. Like very possessive, but not
he was
in a
very
bad
passionate about it.
Oh yeah, it was cute. It was strong, but it was great. And like,
yeah.
And so he starts like, you know, panicking a bit, and then Iris says how like she knows Carlos. She's like, I know. Like, she knows that Carlos is TK's. And then TK just asks like why she won't sign the divorce papers, and she says how if she files for divorce, it would be saying that her and Carlos were married when really they weren't, and it would be a mistake to say that they were. Besides, you shouldn't be Carlos's second marriage. You should be his first and last. And I was like, oh, that's a moment where I was like, okay. I was about to like, she was like, it's a mistake. When she said it was a mistake, I was about to be throwing hands. I was like, oh no.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you dare mess with my Carlos.
I was like, what?
But then when she said that, I was just like, oh, okay. And
okay,
then
you redeemed yourself a little bit here.
Yeah. It gets better, but then TK asks like what she's saying, like he's a little confused, and Iris says like how she thought it was obvious. She's like they should get an annulment, which I had been saying last week so much. Like, everywhere I posted, I was like, and on here, I was like, annulment. And like Iris says how like marriage wasn't real, but yours will be, and TK's like all happy, which I was too. I just moved myself.
He needed that after what was dropped on him in the first episode. He needed that like assurance from somebody, especially somebody that was in Carlos's life when they were younger, that like she's approving of that. of their, relationship.
I know, yeah, and I was so happy just because I was about to start screaming at her because I was like, "It's a mistake. What do you mean? What's going on?" And then like he hugs her, and then he's like, "Thank you," and then she said like, "Please do not sit me next to a Gemini at the wedding," and this is when I was like, "Ruff is a Gemini."
Mhm.
It made me laugh so hard because I was literally like, when I was watching, I was like, Rob is a Gemini. That's the first thing that came to my mind. And she's like, they make her jumpy. Oh, that was good. Then TK like circles back to that one thing she said about how he was like, "Oh, so what did you mean when you said that I was exactly what you expected?" And I don't know, I had been thinking like, what the heck does that even mean? And I honestly I didn't expect that to be answered. I'm glad it was. So she said how like she meant that he's a hot mess, and she said that like TK is like a bird with a broken wing, a fixer-upper. Carlos always needs a project. TK is like, "Well, is that what you think I am to Carlos?" And she thinks he's much more than that. She thinks he's his life's work. Okay, that gave me like, I don't know. Like in some instance I understand what she's trying to say, but I'm also like, he's
Honestly,
not Carlos's child. Like that's he's not like, like I don't know, like that just gives a different vibe.
Right.
here's
Go ahead.
no, you can go first because I'm interested to hear what you have to say because I definitely have my thoughts outlined, but you can go first.
Some people like to be, a fixer upper. They like fixing things. They like doing things. And I think that's the Carlos that she knew back when they were in high school. I think some Carlos liked helping friends out, being there for people. And I think that's what she expected Carlos to be, and not realizing the other piece of it, which Carlos will say later. I feel like her perspective currently is that he's always somebody who wants to help everybody else and fix things, and seeing how TK is kind of a quote unquote hot mess and has had health challenges and, been impacted by that. He's changed jobs, moved to Texas. He's just kind of had a messy life, and she's just kind of, I don't know. And I don't like, even Carlos told him like, don't take it personally because she's going to be blunt because her meds aren't take kind of the filter out. So I feel like, and like we have to take that into as a grain of salt, like exactly. Not to jump and like, oh my God, what is she saying? Is he like, because I think we've all kind of said at some point that TK's a hot mess.
Hey, I'm a hot mess. I get it.
Me too.
See, I was riding on like the high of the annulment bit, and this kind of brought me down a little bit.
Really?
And because here's the thing, TK is a hot mess.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really think of anyone who's not some sort of a mess. Humanity is a mess. TK just plunges himself into particular situations.
Mm-hmm.
Or has them smack him across the face. There is my issue. It's it comes from the idea of fixing someone. Because unfortunately that is a very toxic view of a lot of very real relationships. Right. A lot of real relationships are based off of fixing somebody.
Yeah.
Or being like, oh, I can change this person. I can improve them. Everyone will, well, if they're a good match, you and your partner will help each other. You will help improve each other.
That's true.
Fixing, life's work, project, all key toxic words, which threw me off of this very severely. Yeah. And I mean, you want to give her a little smack. Apparently I'm feeling a little violent today.
That's
but
okay.
I just really, I understood the sentiment behind hot mess.
Right.
But also considering the fact that she had talked to him once before now.
Yeah.
I thought she was the least qualified person to really say it.
Point.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm not taking anything she says personally, just knowing that like
yet
the illness and
yet.
Yeah, I guess. I'm not I'm not like super, I'm interested to see what happens, and I'm like, I don't think anything like super terrible is gonna happen with this, but like I kind of like I take like everything she says, it kind of puts it in a negative light out. Like I kind of like get what she's saying. And like, yes, like Carlos is like Carlos does like, like helping people, and like Carlos is very like acts of service, like that's his love language. You can't convince me otherwise. Like if you think
Agreed.
Oh, for sure.
otherwise, you're wrong.
Like between that and physical touch, like those are like two primary, I would say.
Yeah, I would say. In those instances, like yes, like Carlos definitely likes like, being able to be like a fixer, but not to the point where he wants to like change anybody. And I don't think Carlos ever would change TK or change anybody. And
Right.
like
I don't think he views him as something that needs to be fixed. I think he just views him as someone who he'll need to probably pick up and dust off on occasion, or sit by a few more hospital
like
beds.
Carlos likes to cook.
like-
He likes to do things for TK like that. So like that's what I see it as. Not like but obviously
Yeah.
this kind of makes TK a little spiral even more than he came here. Like the annulment like made things better, and now she said this one thing that he was curious about that he brought up, and now we're just going to go into a completely other direction that's going to spiral. And I have, we know that stuff's going to happen, and Carlos is going to, go for a journey.
Well, let me tell you that if this got said to me, I would go on this exact same insecurity spiral.
Oh, I
even
would too,
if I never.
100%.
Oh yeah,
because
sure.
Again, this like I just have a lot of issues with this entire thing. I definitely agree on the acts of service thing though, but
yeah,
basically everything Ira said in this bit, except him being a hot mess, I feel, and I'm not going to go too far into this, but there's a difference between being like, yeah, you got to be like understanding and accommodating because of her meds and stuff, and that's just how she is. That's absolutely true, but there also is accountability to be had. And
Agreed.
so when words are being taken a little bit too far, sometimes you got to just be like, okay, we understand where you're coming from, but like little phrasing check on this. That wasn't quite right. And obviously I think if she had said this any other way, it could have been fine. But the way she said it sent TK down again and again. It would do the exact same to me, which is probably why I react this much to it. So I will stop my tangent here, but just saying, like, happy about the annulment bit, like, loved that. Got my gripes about the rest of it.
Right.
Yeah. So let me get Tommy's date. That was very awkward.
Oh my god.
Like, I get it, and like also so she invited the whole family over. We have Grace and Judd and Charlie coming over. We have, Tommy's daughters, which that makes sense. They're at her house. Like, I mean, they could have, stayed with the nanny. We know that that's happened before in episodes. It was awkward, but it was also kind of funny. But it was so awkward. And I'm just thinking, like, through this all, like, Tommy, maybe next time, like, I guess you haven't learned your lesson. Maybe don't take advice from Owen, especially about dating.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, he had a point about backup. Not necessarily that you had to bring it on the date, but there's always, like, a good plan to be like, hey, can you be my call person if, oh my god, I need to get out of this situation?
Right. Yeah.
Can I send you like an SOS text and you be like, oh my god, my dog just got, well, it just threw up, food poisoning. Help me take him to the vet. Yeah, that kind of thing. So I was taken a little too far here.
Yeah, she didn't really necessarily get the message. And so when I thought of backup, I thought a few different scenarios. So I thought, okay, they go out, they're like at a restaurant or whatever. 2 tables behind them, TK and Nancy are sitting there, or like somebody else, Judd and Grace are sitting there eating dinner. Like something like that. Not
I feel like if they had gone out for dinner and TK and Carlos just so happened to
that would've
decide
been
they didn't
so
want to eat
cute.
in
Yes.
and wanted to go out. Like,
I would have loved to
TK
see
could
TK and Carlos on a double date with them.
please. But like them just sitting nearby and just being like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, there is like TK having to invite him out and also being like, yeah, just to let you know, this does have a double purpose.
I know it. That would have been so good.
Carlos
Like, hire
would have just
us as
rolled with it.
writers.
Right.
Please. Just for a season. We'll get everything back on track. And then we're
Yeah.
gonna buy the rights to 911LoneStar to make sure that they can't mess it up anymore. Anyway,
Honestly. Okay.
after all, we hold the big bucks. No, we don't. But
So
we
then,
would in that scenario.
Owen goes home and O'Brien is in his house. Okay, and I didn't realize this like right away. I
did.
like,
I saw a person there. Oh my
I
god.
saw
was
a
like, hey,
person,
someone's there.
but I didn't see
I didn't
who
see
it
a
was.
person.
Right.
I saw a person, or I didn't see anybody. I just knew automatically. I'm like, okay, home alone scene, nothing's happening, someone's gonna be there. Yep,
Yeah.
Okay, there's O'Brien. Didn't even see a
Yes.
person, just was like,
I knew
okay,
that.
someone's
I
there.
knew that. I saw a person, but also I had that creepy feeling where I was like, okay, something's gonna happen. And I was like, I don't know, a little worried because I was like, I don't know, what if like it was somebody else? Like, I don't know, like and stuff. And so O'Brien had found the bug, which we all saw that. I feel like probably saw that coming because you knew when he placed it that somebody was gonna find it. And I think even when I was watching it, I had said to myself, oh, somebody's gonna find that. Like, I know it.
Oh yeah, totally.
And so like Owen wonders if he's like one of the underdogs and like stuff, but O'Brien just says, oh, like, get your helmet, let's go for a ride. And I'm just like, okay, what is going on? Like, what is about to happen? I have, and like, honestly, after rewatching it, I have a few scenarios circling in my brain. I'm like, oh, so Brian brings him to his house and he has this huge board of like connections and like being like,
Yep.
I'm investigating this myself.
Right.
That's my primary like thought. My primary thought is that O'Brien is investigating it himself. I don't feel like he's actually involved.
Oh yeah, just me either. That'd be too obvious.
Yeah, I don't get the. Actually, I feel like that's like, if I'm being honest, the least obvious of the two is that he is involved. Because to me, it feels like it's so obvious he's off investigating this himself. That's just how it appears to me.
Yeah, it feels that way, but also like if they had him be involved, I feel like that would just be, I don't know, it would just be like not obvious, but I just feel like all shows do that where they have that one cop that goes dirty and then like it's like, oh, he's bad. And I'm like, I've seen enough of that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's the thing is that I definitely see what you're saying, but at the same time, if he was bad, they'd be a lot more subtle about it. Or they would make him seem like more of a ally if they were trying to make him seem bad.
I'm back and forth, but I kind of have a feeling that it's going to be sometime like the whole let's get your helmet, let's go. It's more of a let's take you out somewhere where I'm not going to be watched and spied on to talk.
That too. That was another thought I had.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
It'll definitely be interesting to see what happens. I don't know if they're going to like pick this up in the next episode because I have a feeling that like a lot of the storylines are going to cross over, which like there's going to be, because we have like multiple different things happening, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens when, and then like more of the stuff is happening later in this episode. So we get that Tarlos scene where TK's on the couch. This was so, like these Tarlos scenes in this episode were so freaking good. So
they were,
it was so good. So like Carlos like, oh, I don't feel like cooking, so like, oh, he's like, we should just order in. He's asking like TK for his input. TK's just like not like, obviously he's spiraling for what happened earlier and he's just not feeling it, and he's just like so quiet and he's not paying attention, and TK is just like, oh, you can pick, and Carlos is just like, I always pick, and TK's you like to pick, and Carlos just is like, yeah, I do like to pick, and then Carlos is like telling TK to like, oh, surprise me like tonight, and then TK says maybe this marriage is a bad idea, and Carlos is just like,
That surprised me.
yeah, that surprised me. And like he looks up in the menu, and that's when he's like, that okay, well that surprised me. And then Carlos goes over there and sits next to him, and he is like asking him what's wrong. And TK like sad eyes. And he asks Carlos like if he sees him as a project, and Carlos is so confused. He's like, a project, and then TK is just like something that needs fixing, like a bird with a broken wing or a tragic case in need of rescuing. And Carlos is like, no. And he asked TK what he's talking about, and TK asked if when he married Iris, did he feel that he could fix her, save her from her illness. And Carlos is like, well, I've told you that like when we got married, she wasn't showing any like signs of her illness, and that Carlos was the project, not her, and he was the one that needs saving, but he was trying to fix himself, but he wasn't like, he was trying to fix something that wasn't actually broken. And Tiki's like, well, when did you figure that out? And Carlos is just like, when we met, like the night we met. And Tiki's just like, shut up.
Take it back to the night we met. Sorry.
Yes. And then like Carlos laughs a little and they kiss, and I'm like, oh, and everyone was complaining like, oh, this is gonna get cut, blah blah blah. Look at this. Look at
Didn't
that.
get cut, just saying.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to say that so bad after people were just complaining about it. 'Cause like, come on now. And so then TK asked like Carlos, like, so do you think I'm a hot mess? And he's like, oh,
I love Carlos's response.
I know. He's like, oh no, you're a hot mess, but you're my hot mess. And I love that. I was like,
oh, I love that.
When I heard that, I was like, oh, you're my hot mess. Like, oh my god. And TK's just like, I hate you. And Carlos is just like, yeah, and kisses him more. And then that was just such a sweet moment. It was such a good conversation, such good communication, so much growth here. Like, you know, if this happened even last season, you know, there would have been some run out, some breakup. Okay, people were like, okay, if this happened in season 2, they would have broke up easily. I'm like, oh yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Like, there was so like, that's like all everyone had to talk about is how good like the communication, like the growth was to this point. And I was like, yes, like, and like when I just rewatched the scene, like the end, it literally melted me, like especially like you're my hot mess. Like I was like, oh, like everything. This was everything. Like, and it's funny because people are like, okay, so like these Carlos scenes, like where do they rank? And I'm like, I don't even know. Like just in general, out of like all seasons where these would rank, I mean, it would be in the top 10. But like,
thank God we don't rank until the end of the season. I
know, because what my thought process was, oh my god, these scenes have been so good so far. Like, how could it get better from this? Like, obviously we know the wedding's gonna be amazing, it's gonna be everything, but like this, there's just like so many like variations of things and stuff, so it's hard. But then Carlos gets a call, and like, so like they stop kissing so he can answer his phone, and so he picks it up and he's just like, hello, and then like you can't hear what's on the other line, but you know it's like a detective or something, because Carlos is just like, this is Officer Reyes. And I'm like, Officer Reyes, what's happening?
Something official's going on.
I know, that's literally what I said too. Yeah. So then we get like the wrap up from Tommy's date, which it was so weird. And then he like left, like he like, oh, I should go relieve the babysitter. Okay. And then like Tommy, it's like she didn't want to go on the date, but her mind said something else, and Judd didn't realize that it was a date. And Grace just like, Judd, did you not realize that we were the third, fourth, and fifth wheels on a date? And he's like, Oh yeah, that explains the cologne.
I was like,
I
"What,
love
Josh?
I
What?"
love Judd. Like that is such a guy thing to do, is be like,
Oh yeah, for
oh
sure.
yeah. I know so many guys like that. It's so funny. I can actually, yeah. And then like Grace is just like to Tommy, like, oh, you probably scared him off back to Kansas and stuff. Like, yep. And like, but then there's a knock at the door, and Tommy's just like, oh, did he forget something? And then they kiss, and I'm like, oh, okay. This is what's happening. And I don't know. I'm very interested about that whole storyline. Like, they have great chemistry, like really great chemistry. So it's interesting. And stuff. So then we get to the stuff I'm really excited about. Carlos meeting the detective. It would have been cool if it was the same detective from last season. And obviously the same one that like talked to Michelle for like Iris's disappearance
Oh
when she was
yeah.
missing. It would have been
Washington.
cool. Yeah, Washington. I couldn't think of her name when I started saying that.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been cool, but like this is still like very great. I just thought of that. So like he meets him and they're like at the homeless encampment, which Iris had said earlier in the episode that like somebody that was at the center was missing or whatever, or they hadn't heard from her. So one of the guys said, oh, wait until so and so comes back and then you can go out together or whatever and look for this person. So we knew.
Right.
I didn't really think too much of that in the moment, but I knew that was coming.
Yeah.
And so then like Carlos is here, and so they're like, oh well, we found Iris's car on the scene, and then the divorce papers were on like the seat or whatever. And so like they call Carlos obviously because his name was on them. And the detective asks like why his wife might have been out here, and Carlos is like, well, she works with homeless, and in fact she used to be one of them. And that's how the episode ends.
I was like, oh my God, of course it has to be how it ends. First off, just because I didn't say this earlier, but yeah, Carlos looked really good in the flannel or the plaid.
Oh, Carlos looked good this whole damn
Mm-hmm.
episode.
Yes, I mean he's looked amazing. Yes, but just that was a real. But yeah, I knew something obviously was going to come up, so I'm curious to see where they're going with this. I am a little concerned also because according to the show, the last person who saw Iris was TK, so I'm worried about Carlos finding out that he went and talked to her. And then I'm worried about Carlos getting in trouble because he's got his name's on the divorce papers, which is like, you know, like, why are you like, how are you involved? And like start accusing him of, you know, causing problems, which, or not problems, but like being an accessory.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
And, you know, being the person that did this, you know, divorce papers always, you know, can bring on like animosity, anger between the couples. So because nobody's gonna know the divorce like issue or like what's going on.
I mean, yeah, this detective's not gonna know that, which I'm waiting for him to be like, I'm very gay. This is me and my fiance.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And stuff. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but also that's not like where my brain goes, because I'm like, well, we know that Carlos goes looking for Iris. We know that he somehow gets clocked in the back of the head, and then we know that TK and Gabriel then go looking for him, which I'm excited for that. Like,
me too.
I'm so excited for that team up.
Me too.
I love Benito. He was on The Rookie the other day. And I was just like, he played a judge and it was so good. I was just like, okay, but now can you like come back and be Gabriel now?
I know. Yeah. I was he posted about it, and then I think Ronan posted something about like it was a conversation that he was having with an interview, and then he made a comment about
that.
Benito, and it was exciting that he got to work with him kind of one-on-one. And so like Benito responded and it's like it was an honor or something like that. So it was really cool.
No, like
because I realized like, oh yeah, they haven't really had a one-on-one scene.
Yeah, like I love Carlos's parents. Like they're honestly my favorites. So freaking good. And stuff. And yeah, so I'm excited. Like I know that's coming. I don't know. I'm really like they have like this episode had like a little bit of a cliffhanger, and I know every episode like the next few will probably have one. I'm really excited to see like how they go from episode to episode, how they carry
Right.
them. Like I'm really excited for like, the storyline. I don't know. Like I know like we know the things from the promos, so in my head I'm like, well, we know at one point Carlos is carrying Iris out of a building and she's like passed out
Right.
and stuff. So I know that happens. So I'm like,
More
I
than
don't know.
likely, something similar to what happened to Michelle in 10109 going into 110. Like she was knocked out.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody was mad at her for giving her meds or taking her meds or something, and
Right.
they took off. And
Right, yeah, and like a lot of people have some crazy theories. Like somebody the other day I saw said, like, what if the people that Iris was like involved with, like when obviously like when Michelle was discovering like going through her disappearance, and like what if those people come back? And I'm like, I honestly don't remember enough. Like I've watched season one, not even joking. I've probably hundreds of times, but I haven't watched it in a really long time. But I'm like, I don't remember this, and I've seen it a lot, but I don't know. I'm very excited, very interested. I'm very like hyper fixated at Lone Star, like especially today. I'm just like, okay, God, this.
right.
But yeah, I really love this episode. Like it was so, and
It was
like
super good.
the ending was so intense, but this episode was like,
Mm.
I don't know. It was pretty funny, and like there were so many good one-liners, and there was also so many sweet moments where I'm like all of the T.K. Carlos lines. Every time I heard it, I was like, that needs to be on the shirt.
Yes. Oh my god.
Like I would wear that.
Yes.
I would wear that and stuff. So that's what I'm thinking about. But
I
I'm
mean,
excited.
just in big bold print, you're my hot mess.
Yes.
I know. I don't know how, but I want that on a shirt.
Right.
Mhm.
That's cute. And I'm grateful that now that TK and Carlos are engaged, and there has been some amazing growth with TK, and then I'm a little bit with Carlos, that they don't, I don't know. I know people were complaining last episode that they didn't get an I love you. And I'm like, I think we're way past that. And like anything that they share with each other is like, it's huge. Like TK was being vulnerable by talking to Carlos and asking, like, am I just something you're with to fix? And it's a valid thing. Like a lot of people start getting that, kind of questioning everything. Like, are they only, with me because they want me to get fixed? Or, I don't blame him for thinking that way. And I'm glad that Carlos assured him that, it wasn't anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish we would have gotten a little more Tarlos before he got the call, but also we need drama, and that's
yeah, and it's good drama, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
I love good drama. And I feel like we got like a lot, even if we didn't get I feel like we got a lot of Tarlos, but we like even the separate scenes that like the TK going and seeing Iris, I was like, oh, Tarlos adjacent.
Yeah. I personally, I feel like I actually liked this episode more than the last one.
Oh,
and
I
liked
definitely
last
agree.
Episode a lot.
I know I loved the last episode, but I definitely agree. Better and better.
But like if this is a stand already, and I'm really hoping not to get the standard crush anytime soon. So don't let me down on this, please. But like I'm truly, I loved this episode. It's really good at suspending those storylines, but in like a natural way. I think they've kind of got the right flow of things right now. Like we're definitely getting more of the Carlos and Iris storyline right now, which is good because they've got more to tackle there. They've got multiple different layers, whereas Owen's storyline is a little bit more linear. So if we focus on that more, it'd be over a lot quicker. So the pacing is really good, and I'm really impressed. And we're not having tons of emergencies at the moment, but the emergencies that we are having are good. I did like the opening one, but they're not. And this is something 911 overall is really good about. they're not relying on emergencies to make the show good.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And 911 overall, like the entire realm of it, is really good about that. I feel like it may have relied a little bit more on the earlier seasons because they were establishing a little bit more, but not even then. Like they're just really good at making these storylines. So yeah, loved this episode. Obviously I have my few nitpicks here and there, but overall, nothing that really makes me unhappy.
Right.
Generally, again, just continuing to get blown away. And of course, literally all that is needed to make me very happy is a good amount of Carlos.
Amen to that.
And we got it. So yeah, that's kind of my final thoughts on that.
Yeah, I love the episode. I thought it was great. I think they did a really good job. I'm looking forward to next week. I'm curious where they're going to take this whole Carlos Iris TK storyline, and also excited for some Gabriel TK and some other combinations of their parents, and having Andrea back, because I know she'll be back too.
Yeah. I know.
Yes, I miss Andrea.
3, but probably I don't know. We don't know who's going to be in 4 yet. That one, the description for that one hasn't been released.
I think if I'm not mistaken, that's when Gabriel and TK are teaming up in episode 4.
From my understanding,
right? From my understanding, because everyone was like saying how like that's when Carlos is obviously looking for Iris in the next episode, so that would have to mean that like in the next episode Carlos is either hurt or missing in between 3 and 4. I don't even want to think about that, because that is now making my brain be like, oh my god, that's going to be how we end it. Okay, we're not going there. Okay, let's talk about fan thoughts so we can distract ourselves from that.
Right, there we go.
Okay, so many good things this week. My heart broke for TK when Iris said what Iris said was not true, not nice, true. I like the scenes with Iris, even though she low-key made me mad. That is such a mood.
Yep.
And the Marjan rescue. The Marjan rescue was so good. Amazing, great character growth. So true. And that's what a lot of people had to say. The episode was amazing. There was great character growth from Tarlos, and seeing Carlos attend the scene at the end in plaid clothes with his badge around his neck. Oh yeah, I forgot at the end that and a lot of people were saying like, okay, the badge around his neck, was that like a hint of like a detective hint or like detective error? And I'm like, oh, that is possible, because like they would drop Easter eggs of different things.
Yeah, I mean it's possible with his. But I also I know that often cops will do that. They purposely do that if they have to come to a scene in plain clothes.
That, but like it was just like too subtle for it not to be something. But anyways, around his neck was awesome. Subtle hints of detective. Yep. Really enjoyed the episode. Finally got some good Tarlos communication, which is like what everyone has had to say.
Right.
I loved all of it. Really changed my opinion of Iris. I now can see and understand her. Really glad they brought her back. Partially agree with that, because I kind of felt like that in that episode. I feel like they're slowly trying to get us to understand what life for her is like, and how she I guess formulates herself, and how she says things and stuff. And this is only just the beginning. We'll definitely get more. This episode, so many good Tarlos moments. We got a lot of emotional range with TK. I love Tommy and Grace, Owen, Tommy, really friendship scenes. The first emergency was really cool. I'm glad that Iris wasn't, I think it's supposed to be villainified. And I want more of her dynamic with TK and Carlos. I don't know what Brian's deal is. Honestly, same. I love this episode. Yeah, that was literally me the whole episode. Because sometimes when I watch shows, especially when I watch Lone Star, I'm trying to figure out what's going on with this person the whole time.
Right.
Like,
felt that one.
yeah, for sure. But yeah, those were great. But now we have the promo.
Excuse me.
Oh, the promo. Much was happening in the promo, but also so little was happening at the same time. I kind of felt. So we have TK standing in like the loft in what seemed like a doorway, kind of like and stuff. Carlos was like picking up his jacket and saying how he can't just sit here while she's out there. And Carlos was wearing the same clothes as in this episode at the end.
I think TK was as well, from what he was wearing when he was sitting on the couch.
I can't remember what he was wearing, but I know Carlos for sure was, because I acknowledged it. So I'm like, okay, one of two things. Either this is like the same night and he has to go out and look for her right then and there, or it's like the next morning and they just didn't sleep.
What I'm thinking more like is like it's a flashback to when Carlos got the call and saying something about, he's like, Iris is missing. And then TK's like, well, what are you going to do about it?
Well,
and then,
I don't know. Because I don't know if he knows she's missing until he gets there, because the detective could have just been like, oh, we need to talk to you about something, or we need you to come down here for this reason. I don't think they would tell him that she was missing, because I think that would honestly put him on like, because they know that it's his wife, whether they what they know or not. That is legally on paper what that looks like.
Right, that's true.
So that's kind of how I look at it. And like TK's like saying like, oh, you think it's my fault, and I hate that. Like, and like people had been saying to me, oh, do you think like Carlos will blame TK? And I'm like, not intentionally. And like TK says like how she was fine, which I have a feeling has to do with like Carlos finding out that TK went and talked to her. And but we hear this like as Carlos, like they show him like patrolling looking for her in his uniform. And then Carlos says how she's not fine, and and then we have CTK in the background, and when they're at that call, like that's like off the cliff, like near the mountain kind of thing. And Carlos is like telling Owen, oh, like we have a witness that says a man threw a woman off over a cliff. And TK's like, Iris, and Carlos just says like it could be her down there. And my thought was like, it's definitely not her. Like I know when they flip this girl over, it's not gonna be her.
Oh yeah, it's not gonna be Iris.
Because I was like, that's just so easy not to mention. And like the girl, even from the back, didn't even look like her, in my opinion. So yeah, like they go down there, like I think it's Paul and Marjan, because I remember Natasha posting something about like, oh, this is really cool that we got to do.
Oh
and,
yeah, that's right.
And then someone says like, oh God, and then we just see Owen like standing there overlooking this, and then we hear, I thought it was Owen like saying like, talk to me. And then someone says like that they're like to the woman that they're gonna turn her over, and they turn her over, but we don't like see it obviously, but it's not Iris. I already know that. We all know that. And I don't know what Owen says, something else, but you can't really tell what he said. And then yeah, like it's not Iris. And I don't know, I'm thinking so many things, and it's just like it would just, it's not, we know like where, we sort of have an idea like where she's found, I don't know, somewhere else. I just know it's somewhere else. It's in a like, I don't want to call it a house because it could not be. It could be just some random place, but it's a place. It's not a cliff. And
well, we see there's that other clip we see of Carlos, carrying her out of a building, a house or something. So he definitely finds her there.
Yeah.
Whether or not he finds her or the police find her and he just comes and gets her, we'll see soon.
I know, it'll be interesting. I honestly might watch like the promo that's in again, because I kind of want to get like a feeling of like what clothes Carlos is wearing, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't know, I want to know like more, because like we know at one point he he gets hurt, he goes missing, like, and stuff. And like people are like, well, we don't know if TK and Gabriel are looking for Carlos or if they're looking for Iris. Well, my thought is possibly both.
Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of envisioning that 403 is going to be Carlos searching for Iris, Carlos not finding Iris, Carlos taking it upon himself to go like on the lam and start looking for her, and maybe stops by the mom's house, his, I guess legally his mother-in-law's house.
Yeah, I don't.
And I don't know, either that or something along those lines. And then it kind of is like left as a cliffhanger, like Carlos gets hurt, and then that's the cliffhanger to the next episode where maybe TK's worried about Carlos because he hasn't called him for a day or two, and calls Gabriel and says like, I don't know where Carlos is, I don't know what's going on, and they kind of team up to go look for him. So like that's kind of what I'm envisioning right now.
I mean, most of the stuff I'm getting off of like who's in the episode, and if Iris's mother was in the episode, it would have been on there. So
yeah, that's true.
That's how I account most of that. Yeah, but there's so many like callbacks because like TK going to Gabriel and them looking is like the callback to season 2, episode 8, I think it was.
Yeah, 208 when Carlos was looking for TK. Yeah,
208. Bad call. I think that's what it was called. Wow. Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah. Carlos is suspended and he goes to Owen, and then they go out looking for TK and the ambulance crew.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's gonna be something like that. And I'm so excited.
Hey, we already know that the Strands and Reyes make a pretty good team. So
oh my god, if they literally use another line they've used before, I might lose my shit. I'm not even kidding. I'm not kidding. I'm just saying.
All in all, it's a good episode. I'm looking forward to more. Can't wait till next episode.
I know. I'm so excited.
Yeah. That just about sums it up, I guess.
I know, it really does.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for joining us and listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Anchor. We're also on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, and anywhere you can get your podcasts. Please rate us on iTunes and Spotify. It would mean a lot to us. You guys can follow us on our podcast socials at 911LS Roundup on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. You can also chat with us on our Discord server. It's been a lot of fun talking now that the season's back. We've had so much good conversation over there. The link is in the description of this podcast and our Instagram bio. You guys can follow me, Katie, at Full of Tarlos on Instagram and TikTok.
You guys can follow me, Grace, at RunRuffin911 on Instagram and at ChipGirl31 on Twitter.
You can follow me, EJ, at EJ8302 on Instagram and Twitter.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.